next fly I'm going to tie is one of the most popular dry flies ever invented. It's called the Royal Wulff. Contrary to maybe popular thought, it doesn't use wolf hair. It's named after one of our big icons in fly fishing, Lee Wulff. Lee invented it to match the hex hatch up in Labrador, great big mayflies. And his Royal Wulff became one of the most popular flies in the fly fisherman's arsenal. Now, a lot of people consider this not a beginning fly, but I differ with them. I think it's a fly that you want to learn how to tie because it's a fly that's so effective. So let's get started and I'll take you through the numbers. And what you've learned so far, I know that you can tie this fly. So watch up, go slow, and we'll get it down. First, we're going to use a 9300 TMC. This is an essential hook for this fly. It's a strong hook, it'll hold a big fish, and it's perfect for the Royal Wulff pattern. Now, you can use a 6/0 or 8/0 thread. I prefer using an 8/0 thread because you can get more wraps and get a tighter fly. I'm going to use a dark brown. You can use a gray or a black. And we're going to give you this contrast so that you see how important the proportioning is. Now, this is the hardest part of tying any of these hair flies, is understanding the proportions. Right there, halfway down the shank. Bare hook, remember that. Now, we're going to use moose body hair. I use moose body hair on a lot of flies because it's so stiff and it makes a great tail. You need a stiff tail. Why? Because you got to balance out the calf tail wings of this fly. If you looked over the material list, you notice it's calf tail again. Okay, now we're gonna stack this because we want it nice and even. Now, if you don't have moose body hair and you run out of moose body hair, and you need to use something else, dark elk, bucktail, that's what Lee Wulff originally used. But moose, in my opinion, makes the best tail. Right there. Now, bare hook, what we're going to do is halfway. Halfway here, another halfway between the eye. What is that? If we do our math, it's 3/4 of the way down the hook, or 75%. Now, we're going to take our thumbnail and tie it in. And we're going to tie it in nice and tight. And at this point, we're going to trim it. This is where a good scissors is really important. This happens to be a scissor that Cabela's sells. It's called an anvil scissor. It's got long points and it's really good for cutting hair. If you don't have a pair of this and you plan on tying a lot of hair, you want to get one. Okay, so now we're getting rid of that hair and we're going to be very careful to wrap in and go over the butt ends. Now, before we do much else, we're going to take our thumbnail and push our hair forward. And then we're going to wrap right in here. Notice all that bare hook. If you're right up on the eye, you better start over. If your hair is right there, you've done it wrong. So what are we doing this? We're building up a base so that that hair will stand up. Okay, there we go. It's standing straight up now. We're fairly straight up. Now we're going to do, just like in the Clouser minnow, we're going to do an X pattern. Now let me tilt this just for a second where you can see it. See what we're going to do. We're going to kind of look here and try to divide it in half. And you may find yourself having to go to the front, but what we're going to do is take our thread, go right through the wing, come back around through the other wing, and then we'll look at it to see if we've got it about even. Looks pretty good, I think. Now, you're going to have a little trouble with this. You want to err on the shorter side, and it's just going to take a little bit of practice, but you'll get it. Now, what we want to do is at this point tilt it up to the side if you have the rotary vise, or if you have your other vise, you're just going to have it like this. I'll just tie it down and show you. We're going to go around to the other side, and this is going to be one of the hardest things that you do. And what we're going to do is go around this wing. Now, I'm going to tilt it a little bit so you see what I'm talking about. I'm going to go around this wing. Notice the path of the bobbin. See the bobbin head right there, or where what we call the tube, right there. Look at the angle. We're going to go around, again, and around, again, and around. And we're going to build that thread up the wing. just like that. Then we're going to do the same thing to the one closest to us, except what we can do is we can wrap it kind of almost to the side, just like this. Now what's going to happen? Look right there. See how that's sliding off? That's going to happen to you. And that just takes a little bit of practice. And if you try to do this with heavy thread, 3/0 thread, you're going to find yourself slipping off that hair. You might even find that the 8/0 thread that's in your material kit is going to work a lot better for you. There we go. We're going to wrap it. Notice how I'm wrapping it around. Notice the path of the head. It's a little bit different. Now what I'm going to do is bring the thread back around. I'm going to squeeze it together. See how they come upright? And I'm going to trim. And again, look at what I'm doing here. This is another little trick you can learn. Between your two fingers, raise it up, take your thumb, and you can then guide your scissors so you don't cut your thread. Look at that. Isn't that nice and clever? See, that was worth the price of getting this tape just to learn that. Look at that. All right, now we're going to go back over, cover up some of the white that we see. And we're going to look here to make sure that we still have room and we're not right up against our eye. And we're going to make a nice little base there, because in a minute we're going to have to tie some hackle there, believe it or not. Now we go back to the very end of the hook, right over where the barb is. And we're going to get some of our, oh yes, here we go again, peacock. I bet you guys are tired of using this peacock, but it is great. Works so well on so many different purposes. Now we're going to tie the peacock in just like this. And then we're going to wrap a couple wraps. This is just a real traditional type of fly. Now what we're going to do is wrap it, and then we're going to kind of keep the peacock right here. Look at the peacock. We're going to push it through the wings and wrap it forward. We're going to keep it right on there. And then what we're going to do is go back down here. If it doesn't irritate you too much, and you're going to get some red floss. And you've got some red floss if you have the material kit. And we're going to take 2 fibers, or you've got 4 fibers usually on this floss, but you only need 2 of them in this size of fly. By the way, what sizes can you tie this fly in? Well, I've tied them as small as a 20. That's really hard, but most of the time it's a pretty good sized fly. You'll tie it from anywhere from 10 up to 18s, but most of the time it's 12s and 14s. What does it imitate? Now I'm actually kind of smoothing out the floss. Now I'm going to tie it off. Notice the peacock is still there. Lee Wulff said it was strawberry shortcake. Quite frankly, it looks like any upwing mayfly. Now I'm going to grab the peacock here. It makes it a little faster doing it this way, and we tie it off. So we have the traditional Royal Coachman type of body. Now we're ready to tie on some hackle. And this is going to be your first adventure with wrapping more than one hackle. So we're going to get some brown saddles, which we've tied before already today. Okay, you're going to take 2 brown saddles. Now, they may have a little bit of this dark furnished middle. That's fine. Most of the brown saddles, unless they're dyed, will have that. You can tell by just turning them, their length, and you definitely want to be up, just the wings are going to proceed just a little beyond the hackle. Okay, now, so we're going to put one on top of the other, dull on glossy, and we're going to match them so that they come out all together just like one. And what we're going to do is take out some of the fluff down here towards the end, and we've got the hackle, both tied together, or put together, and we're going to tie it. Now this is something you want to learn. We're going to come in from the side. Remember how I was teaching you to tie the hackle in from the side? And we're going to put it right between the wing, and we're going to tie it down. It should come out like that. Now we're looking down on it. If we're looking at it straight on like this, this is the way it's going to look. And we're going to tie it in. Now in the front, we're going to come back to the front and we're going to build up that thread. We need to have a nice base to be able to wrap the thread. This is going to be your first adventure. Now notice that there's some bare hook right there. That's very important. Proportioning is everything on this fly. Now, if you don't have, and most of you won't have right now, the rotary hackle plier that we have right here. The rotary hackle plier makes this a lot easier to do, but we're gonna just take the standard hackle plier. We'll take the old rubber to rubber hackle plier, and we're gonna follow this down until we get to the end right here and grab both hackles. And we're going to test it and make sure that it's nice and tight. Okay, at this point, notice how we're going to keep it nice and straight and keep moving forward. Now we've got 2 wraps right there, and that's usually enough. 2 wraps will do it. Then you pull back on the wing and go forward. As we wrap forward, wrap another one, and I think we can probably get a 3rd one in there without crowding our head. And now we go under. Again, this little maneuver with 2. Now, some of you are going to have the problem with the hackle coming out. You got to just keep practicing. Now, the first thing you're going to say is this. And a lot of people say, well, you need to wrap one on top of the other, one at one time, and go through, and then another one through. But you know what happens when you do that? Fiber over fiber, vein over vein, the hackle goes all in different directions. Once you learn to wrap 2 hackles, you get this fabulously dense hackle that will support a fly so much better. And you know, obviously if you had a real long hackle, you could keep going over and over and over, but it's better to take your saddle hackle and wrap 2 at once. And actually, if it's real long, you can cut it in half so you can get double the value. And you end up with this nice dense hackle. I've been tying this Royal Wulff literally for 50 years. And it's been around for 75 years. And it's a great pattern. Now, we're going to get our whip. I keep wanting to use my old Thompson whip finish, but we're going to go back to the more modern one, and we're going to use our Mattarelli, and we're going to tie it off. Now, just kind of watch to make sure you don't tie too many fibers in, and at that point, there we go. Get out of there. And we have the Royal Wulff. Whether you tie it with black thread, brown thread, gray thread, it's the same fly. As you can see from in, it's a superb little fly. Okay, there is your Royal Wulff. It's a fly that I think everybody needs in their box. It's a great pattern to drop a nymph off the back or from the eye if you're using a 2-fly system because you can see it so well. It's a fly that everyone needs to tie, and to me it's a basic fly. You need to learn to tie it when you first start tying fly. Next we're going to one of the big staples now, and that's called a parachute Adams. Again, a fly that you need to know how to tie. Don't be intimidated by parachutes. I think they're much easier than tying this fly. I think you'll agree with me.